Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. My name is Bonnie Adderstrom. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm the Poetry Event Coordinator here at Brookline Booksmith. Today, it is my absolute pleasure to host two wonderful poets, KÁNYIN Olorunnisola and Ayesha Raees, for our third Thursday's poetry reading series. Before I do introductions, I do have just a few housekeeping notes. So firstly, we've got copies of Ayesha's book available for sale on the back counter there, and we don't have copies of KÁNYIN's book right now, but there's a beautiful QR code, so if you'd like to order from the press, feel free to give that a scan. Secondly, please keep your phones off or on silent while you are here enjoying the poetry. Please know that the event is being live streamed at this beautiful iPad right here. Our audience members shouldn't be visible to our live stream viewers, but if you don't want to be live on YouTube, just don't stand in front of the iPad and you will be good to go. And finally, we will have a Q&A at the end of the event, so hold any questions you have until the end, but definitely have them ready to go. As I mentioned earlier, this event is part of the monthly reading series here at Brookline Booksmith that takes place on the third Thursday of each month. Our March poetry event should be listed on the website soon, so please do feel free to check in on our website if you want to get more poetry in your life. Housekeeping out of the way, now for introductions. Ayesha Raees is a poet and artist identifying as a hybrid, creating hybrid poetry through hybrid forms. Her work strongly revolves around issues of belonging and dislocation, God and spirituality, and beauty as cruelty and cruelty as beauty, while possessing a strong agency for decolonial, anti-violence, and anti-erasure practices. She edits poetry at the margins and has been endorsed by the Asian American Writers Workshop, Kundiman, UNESCO, and others. Her first book, Coining a Wishing Tower, won the Broken River Prize and was an Indies Award finalist. Originally from Lahore, Pakistan, she is based in New York City and many other unsettled places. And of course, KÁNYIN Olorunnisola is the author of the poetry collection Araluego, The Immigrant Monologues, which is coming out in March from Acre Books. His debut short film, Chiaroscuro, premiered at the 2024 Rising Tide Film Festival. His writing appears in Al Jazeera, Faya, Georgia Review, and the Chicago Review of Books. He's the founder of Spring Inc., a literary nonprofit, and former nonfiction editor of the Black Warrior Review. His work has been supported by Harvard University's Woodbury Poetry Room, the Levitet's Leadership Program, Speculative Literature Foundation, and the Association of Writers and Writing Programs. He has an MFA from the University of Alabama. Folks, I'm so excited to welcome you both here. Thank you for being here. Both of these poets are experimenters. They're using their inventiveness with language and form to explore the imaginative and the deeply personal through a multiplicity of voices. These are poems that deal with life and death and migration and culture and empire, but each in their own way. Each of these poets deftly and unflinchingly grapples with the love and grief of it all, but in their singular and unique voice and style. I'm so excited to be able to host you both. I'm so excited to get to host you together and to celebrate these wonderful debut poetry collections. Everyone, let's give them a warm welcome.
Okay. I always have to do this. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay, so my name is KÁNYIN Olorunnisola, and that's the cover of my book. It doesn't come out for another month, so I have to read. So it's a book of personal poems, and for those who are not familiar with that, it means a lot of the poems are written from the perspective of characters who are not necessarily me, but in truth, they are all different variations of me. So the book is called Immigrant Monologue, so each poem is basically a monologue written from the perspective of an immigrant. And as a Nigerian in America, I decided to make all these characters either Nigerian Americans or Nigerian immigrants in America. So every poem you're hearing is written from the perspective of a character, who is, say, 60 to 70% me. But let's, I'll leave you guys to figure out how much of these poems are really me. So the first poem is called Adieu Brother. And it's, I need to give a context for this very quickly. So I don't know, everyone knows about what Second World War, right? But there's another phenomenon that I don't think everyone knows too well, which is that in West Africa, a lot of black soldiers were taken and forced to fight on behalf of their colonizers, right? So the Senegalese, for instance, in West Africa, were made to fight on the side of the French. And something happened in around 1940 in the village of Chasselet in France. The Nazis, they won over the French, and so they captured both the white and the black soldiers, and they simply imprisoned the white soldiers. But for the black soldiers, they thought, you guys are evil, we've heard so many bad things about you, and where you come from, we're going to execute you. So they executed them right away. And there's only one photograph, I believe, of those black soldiers before they were killed. And that photograph features one of the soldiers looking directly into the camera. So I saw that, and for about 3 to 6 months it haunted me, so I decided to write a poem to that guy who was looking directly into the camera. So it's called Adieu Brother. What would you say, brother, if you could speak through me? If my body could become a doorway to your deathlessness, what would you make of it? Your eyes hold me still in time, shackling us both in the looming history of your leaving. Tell me, will the bullets become the thorn song that shreds you into irreconcilable stories? Or will the blood pour out of you softly, quietly? The grim lullaby of gunfire cradling you to the grave. Yes, I can feel it now. The terror rising in your chest like a sea storm. The ringing of your woman's voice praying for your safe return into her arms. But your hero's journey knows no return, only atonement. You savage scourge, you Hitler's roach, you black horror on the Rhine. Life's dead weight. You had been marked long before the gun was ever handed to you. Do not go gently into that terrible night. Be the roach, be the scourge, be the horror. Let your body swallow all the darkness the world has ever known. And even if your light must surely die, rage against its dying. Wet-boned, warm-blooded son of Africa, your story is still yours until it is not. Let the sands of Chasselet rule the day they claimed your body as theirs. Rage against the dying of your light. And when you are long gone, I swear this to you, you will live on in my rage. Thank you. So the next poem is about a fire that happened in a gay club in June 1973 in New Orleans. It's not known for sure if it was a homophobic attack or just a terrible accident. But when I was reading about it, what I discovered was that a lot of locals in New Orleans were celebrating this because they thought, yeah, the gays died in a horrible fire, that's amazing. And I was haunted by this one as well, so I decided to write a poem about it. So it's called, Did You Hear About the Flaming Queens? Did you hear about the Flaming Queens? How they dared to dance, to laugh, to sing. How they dared to make music of these glowering streets. How they dared to wear the night on their bodies like it was their birthright. Like God herself had poured all her beauty into them and named them her most beloved. You should have seen them, sweet and forever so. Ageless monuments of the sacred 70s. Irreverent icons upholding the queer gallantry of the South. Mulberry lips, Revlon musk, Motown on the dance floor. Come, feel the love clot in the room. It was an inglorious night when the walls rejected the Supremes, rejected Streisand, and instead broke into a song of flames that touched every tongue in the room. It's such a cruel job, you see. In my mother's language, to burn and to dance are the same word, and none of them could reject the morbid call of the music of fire. How God's children suffered, how they cried to the sleeping deity who had birthed them. At dusk, the moon filled with so much blue it broke itself in half. The preacher, now a faceless crisp of a ghost, hung from the window. Lovers crumbled into ashes in each other's arms. The whole world reeked of smoke and sacrilege. Something deathless died here tonight. Unnamed bodies vanished into the flashbulbs, forever held hostage by the town's vicious eyes. In their mother's dreams, the nameless returned home, their bodies reclaimed from the fire, their breaths put back into their lungs, their laughter filling the rooms of their childhood once more. Legend has it that they never left the French Quarter. that they settled into the tarmac, into the pavement, that they're in the water, fluttering in the winds that blow past Bourbon Street. They're in the music that makes you mistake a stranger for home in the rebellious dusk of North Rampart Street. Forever shall we remain in breathless awe of how they danced, how they laughed, how they sang, and how they lived. Thank you. So this next poem is just in celebration of one night my Nigerian friends and I were going out, and I just thought it was a glorious moment when we were all getting dressed and playing Nigerian music. And I thought, let me write a poem about this. So this is called Text Dada and the Crew, and let's have the sickest Nigerian night out ever. Let's start with this. The fresh glaze of skewered meat over smoldering coal. Jollof rice bright and red as grandma's outdoor kitchen. Flour balls dipped in milk and salt and American excess. The feast to temper the night's inevitable hunger. Whiskey on the Bluetooth speaker. Homies hooked on their own drip. Ankara fit, silver wash nails, dreadlocks soft as wool, coal-lined eyes staring back in the bathroom mirror. Dada pulls up in his convertible, hollering in that glorious mix of Yoruba and Pidgin English. The crew heads downtown. We are unruly in this club. Imported dance moves, wine flowing like gallant gowns, accents thick and black and sweet as molasses. Halima's Mecca goatee, your nose ring, Delu's tribal marks, selfies to flex on Instagram. Beauty marks inherited from uncles and aunts whose faces we only remember through our own. We are the only remnants of home each other will ever have. Hey, don't let them get to you, brother. You look sicker than this beat, brother. You feel me? Later tonight, they may stop you on the streets and ask you to prove that you deserve to be here. But for now, in this moment, you are here. You feel me? We are all here. And look how divine we are in this light. Thank you. So this next poem is, I wrote it about my grandma and a couple of my friends' grandma, so I made them all into one single character. But here we go. Grandma Diaries is what it's called. Grandma keeps her favorite earrings in an old Bojangles bowl. Grandma never lets her bare feet touch the ground when it storms. Grandma collects old photographs of Alajas in Mecca circa 1977. Grandma is thinking of getting a second goal too. Grandma always stretches her fast past Ramadan. Grandma thinks I'm too delicate for the life I've chosen. Grandma once shot a man in the foot. Grandma never wants to talk about it. She holds her breath in elevators. She hums Salawa Beni whenever she yearns for home. She stays up all night streaming Apala songs. Grandma remembers nothing from her girlhood. Grandma remembers too much from her girlhood. Grandma was so beautiful she was mistaken for a goddess. Grandma spends all day in the kitchen when she's pissed. Grandma never says the prophet's name in vain. Grandma misses her husband so much his shadow lingers on the wall. Grandma sits in his old rocking chair. Grandma asks the moon to bring him back to her. So this next poem was inspired by a couple of experiences I had in Alabama. I got my MFA in the University of Alabama, but I used to live in Tuscaloosa, Alabama for like 3 years. And I had a few experiences that weren't, wonderful, as you can imagine. So I wrote a poem partly inspired by that. So this is called Nomenclature. The boy laughs and says your name sounds like a nightmare. You chuckle because you don't know what else to do. The old woman says you are so well spoken, not like the rest of them. You say, thank you, because you don't know what else to do. On FaceTime, your best friend curses you out, says you need to grow some fucking balls and stand up to these white people, but you do not have his fire. You are constantly reminded that you're a seed that fell by the wayside, saved only by the American empire of rain and miracle harvests. You walk around thankful for existing. You walk around sorry for existing. When the man says you have an accent, you almost wish you could wash it out of your mouth. On the phone, your grandfather asks you something in your language. You pretend he's breaking up because you are too ashamed to admit that you are forgetting the words in the only language not handed to you by the colonizers. You are afraid of going back home because you are not the same child raised by your mother's brown roof city. You do not know what war awaits you on your father's shores, so you lie with the devil you know. You become America's little black beast. You let yourself become the footnote in your own story. At the bank, when the cashier asks for your name, you smile and start with an apology. Thank you. So the next couple of poems are written from the perspective of a character I created who, if you read the book, you get the whole story, but he meets this white guy and they are in an interracial relationship for a good portion of the story. So I picked 4 poems that basically show us how the relationship progresses from the start to the end. So this is how they met. Let's just go with that. So this one is called A Dirge for All My 3 a.m. Cigarettes. We are all dream fire if the blunt hits from the right angles. Lord knows I've spent too many nights lost in the throats of white men generous enough to lend me a light. Who will tell the story after we're gone? After we have become the smoke and the gunfire? Sing me a song about brutality, about men halving each other's bodies and dissolving into the congress of raw light. There's nothing tragic about a body that ends in itself. All beautiful things must come to ruin. That is the logical endpoint of alchemy. It is the way the universe corrects itself after we're done with it. And on that note, let's do something nasty to it. Let's do that tongue down throat thing, that body on body thing, that shugging and jiving before the gods of lust thing. Let's become everything our mothers made us swear would never be. The pillar of salt, the aching song lodged in David's chest, the Philistine temple built into dust. Dear stranger, dear God, dear mortal of murderous beauty, make something holy out of the ruins of my faith. And even if it must become dusk come morning, at least leave me a song large enough to speak silence in my chest. Thank you. So the next one is called, about 4 points ago. Okay, so the next one is called Shake It Sweet Thing. You can imagine what it's about. Shake it, sweet thing. I swing for the sweet vanilla juggle of your body, the untamed jars of flesh and gold and melted mercury. Bless the vanity of bodies that spew fat and thick in the soft quiver of these flickering night lights. I sing for the blossoming harvest of your skin, juicy fruitlets sprouting from the henna tree, not the muscle Marys, not the lean, fatless Oxford bone. Give me your wounded excesses. Give me the round belly jelly jamming and jiving under the dreamlike dazzle of disco balls. Bring me the electric boom of your heavy melody, rattling the quiet of a world terrified of your beauty. Show me what those lips do to nomadic boys seeking new forms of life. Darling, if only you knew how many damaged bodies I have walked into. Bodies like coffins bearing remains of their owners Bodies like coffins bearing remains their owners chose to leave unclaimed. But you with your grace and the familiar tenderness of your arms, you carry inside of you enough life to make my valley of dry bones pulsate once more with carnal hymns and thick running water. Thank you. Okay, so the next one is called Upon Seeing a Queer Coded Portrait of David and Jonathan at the Exhibit. How easily you make me impure. Easily, you empty me out. Read me of all the songs I kept safely tucked in the sacred folds of my chest as I crossed the Atlantic in search of new gods. I should have known you would demand worship. When you cupped the moon in your hands and called me yours, I should have known you would ask me to kiss your feet and as you whittled my word down to memory. Lover, can't you see that you're killing the God in me? All I wanted was a hymn that proclaimed me the brightest star in all of California. Here I am, writing wretched songs of your majesty. Call me the lion's feast. Call me David's faithlessness walking under the power of the dog. I swear, there was a cruel yearning in the fields that night. David with a sling of rocks, Jonathan's blades glistening with Philistine blood, 2 boy conquerors begging to be unmade at each other's hands. Wouldn't you know all about that? About unmaking a man. You trickster God, you master of hearts and dagger, you devil in chasuble. How eternally I am in love with you. How eternally I shall worship you. So this is, I believe this, okay. The final poem in this particular character's arc is called Levi's Reckoning. So his name is Levi, and this is the point where he realizes their relationship isn't as perfect as he had imagined. And it opens with a quote by Claudia Rankin. I don't know if anyone here has read Just Us by Claudia Rankin. She talks about a bunch of things, but this particular quote is from a chapter where she talks about interracial marriage and how even though they're so in love, the fact that they still live in America means there are tensions between them because of the political structure. So the quote is, "A love that is not defended, that had a deadpan humor about tomorrows, what would that feel like in any America?" So the poem is called Levi's Reckoning. When the policeman asked if I was bothering you, my fingers racing through your dead blonde hair, the night a falling shadow already miles behind us. Your kiss felt like a barrel in my mouth. For everyone who wears this face knows all too well that love and war do not go hand in hand. You being America's love child with its ghosts, and my body, its war front. When the waitress refused to sit me with you until you arrived, I did not ask what appears to be the problem. I knew the answer. Knew I was the dark blush elephant in the closet. My kind has no place, and it is never here. When the Cuban boy with aquamarine eyes pressed itself between us and asked to boogie with you, our wet lips and hurt swirls, I wish you could see it. I wish you could see that to him I was only a shadow seeking home, a tragic absence of light. When at night you climbed up to me for air, I crushed your beautiful face. I remember I smiled as warning. You can't fuck your way to freedom. And what about this feels like freedom? Being tangled up in your sheets, letting you nail me to your cross, answering to whatever name you christen me for the night. To the rest of the world, I will always be a war front, an elephant, a boy shadow in seek of definition. Everything, anything, but human. So the very final poem is from a character I haven't introduced so far, but you can get a sense of his personality from the way the poem goes. So this is called The History of America. The History of America. America was a photograph, blood on a map. America was Clint Eastwood with a flame hanging between his lips. America was a flame. America was a boulder. America was a bomb. America was death song. America was rock and roll. America was a rock rolling down Capitol Hill and squishing the heads of brown kids in their sleep. America was the hanged man. America was the savior. America was Obama wearing a tiara. America was Oscar Grant wearing a bullet in his lungs. America was a salted wound, a sacred deer, a cattle call. America was pastries, and everything bagel and a chai latte. White girls in Starbucks. America was girls, New York with all the color washed out. America was ghost magic. America was MJ with an afro. America was MJ with extensions. America was Heraclitus, a prophecy within a prophecy. America was Ron Blow with a limp dick. America was George Bush toasting an Ebb strike. America was George Bush, a limp dick. America was your father's shadow. America was the soaked hem of your mother's dress. Our hearts a hollow hall of empty creeps. America was 3 connecting flights and an obsessed stomach. America is dreamland. America is beautiful men. America is a weakening of the knees. America is rock guts, an acoustic guitar, death roads in small towns. Mississippi goddamn. America is a Black Hawk on Bourbon Street. America is bad dreams. America has bad dreams. America is 6 feet tall, baby blue eyes, drives a Shelby Mustang, trust fund kid. America likes it raw, fucks everything in sight, comes in threes, gives good head. Oh, America, yes, America, just like that, America. America also goes by Ray. America is actually Italian. America is a shimmy shake in a jazz club. America is old school. America is a breakup letter, a 3-day bender, lonely walks, unfinished manuscripts. America is a vanishing hope. America is a hope for vanishing. America is you're not welcome here. America is why do you talk like that? America is you don't speak English, do you? America is broken English. America bad English. America yes sir. America yes sir. America I'm thankful to be here. America, me good immigrant. America, can me get scrum of dignity? America bleeding me dry. America loving on me. America, greatest country. America the beautiful. America, oh America, don't I beautiful too? Thank you. Welcome, Ayesha, everybody.
That was amazing. Thank you for all those poems. When you were reading your first one, I was like, oh, we have our next Claudia Rankin. And then you had a Claudia Rankin spoken, and I was like, okay, that's right. Thank you all for having me. I flew in from Philadelphia yesterday for this, so it's good to see a full house-ish. I'm going to be reading from my book called Coining a Wishing Tower. It has a really, I want to start by telling this book has a story of its own at this point, because it's kind of a weird testament of the weird political and personal changes that are happening in our landscape. So I wrote it in 2019 after going through a really big grief period when my soulmate, best friend committed suicide. She was from Vietnam, so she passed away in Vietnam, and I was in the US, and it was learning about all of this stuff over the phone and not being able to make the distance and grieve. Really realized funerals are for the living at that point. And then I was planning to try to go to Vietnam in 2020, and that did not obviously happen because the world shut down. So this book was kind of dealing with the big question, where do we go when we die? And as someone who grew up in Pakistan with Muslim faith, I had a very strong idea from the religion aspect where we go when we die. But my best friend, who I love very much, was not religious. Did not grew up with any religion because she's from Vietnam. So it was a very multifaceted obsession with grief. A lot of research started happening. I was reading so much, both my coping mechanism and also just trying to understand how to make peace with a loss that big, which still affects me to this very day. This book was gratefully picked up the next year, won a prize in the UK press. And then because it was COVID, they were like, we can't publish it until 2023. So 2023 happens, book comes out, wonderful, lovely. 1 year later, my press in the UK is like, oh, we are going bankrupt because post-COVID, inflation, life, hard to, I get it, it's hard, but the nonprofit world right now, it's crazy, everything's shutting down. So I was like, okay, that's really sad. But then what's the future? I don't know. Oh wait, it was published 2022, shut down in 2023, the timeline. And then next year, in 2024, I get an email from an American press called Raees, based in Brooklyn, and they were like, hey, we would love to pick up this project. Is it available? And I was like, it was published, but then it's now again, it's available, I guess. And then they're like, okay, it's coming, they're also a print shop, very cool. So that's why the American copy is very glamorous. And it's gonna come out in 2 months. I'm like, cool. So that was fall 2024. So it's just interesting because the theme of this book is a lot about afterlife. I'm trying to figure out again, where do we go when we die? But also how we die multiple times during when we are alive. And and then after you die, where do we go? And then multifacetedness, and it's kind of mixed with what happens when you leave a place, your childhood, is that a country, your country, is that a childhood? There's multifaceted of a journey of sorts. So when the book came out last year, 2025, well, it's 2026 now, I understand, but still mentally last year, 2024, 2025, I was just doing a book tour again and talking about it, and I was just like, wow, this book as an ornament or object already has a story of its own. and I can't help like talk about it now as it really resonates with like the death idea of death itself. Introducing the book, it is not really like simple like poems like that stand on their own. They feed into each other. I call it a contemporary epic, which is an epic poem is a huge poem that kind of embraces a journey. There's a hero, there's an anti-hero, it kind of goes on and on and on. There are like a lot of characters that kind of mimic the people that have passed away. They come in forms of house mouse, like there's godfish, played with goldfish, and then like there's the house itself in Connecticut, New London. I've never been to New London, Connecticut, but was inspired by another friend, Pakistani friend of mine who passed away due to a drunk driver. You know, and that I was like, I don't know, 20. So I think there was like a lot of like American related losses of love and loss that I experienced in my very young 18 to 23 age group. Like every year something was like something crazy was happening. Gratefully, nothing traumatic has happened like personally, because I think maybe politically it's been pretty crazy. So they're all linked together. So there is a very big story that happens from the start to the finish, like 56 prose poems. Like trying to play with it, when I was trying to pitch it, I was like, this is actually an experimental creative nonfiction piece. No one bought it. So it came under marketing purposes as poetry. So what I usually like, how I like to read it is like I read linearly first, then I flip. Then wherever it lands, I read a little linearly, then flip, and then I read. And sometimes, you know, it feeds into each other. I see more patterns as well, and then it just keeps on going like that. Makes it fun for me too, because I've been reading from this book for 2022 for this time. All right. 4 ghosts, fractured lands, parental shade. 1. House Mouse was running to the mountains, and nothing became of any of his friends. Every peak held another peak, and every reach held another reach. At the end of all possible height, House Mouse found itself inside a tower. The tower looked like a black, elongated box, sharp at the edges, smooth and silky on the sides. Behind all there was just was. A view called beautiful only because it was now distant. 2. My mother enjoys the healthiest bamboo broom. It cost her 15 rupees and only 5 calories were lost during the Battle of Bargain. I'm not in her army, but she drags me into the field. The enemy's armor is poor, has a big gnawing hole right around where his heart should be. I do not believe 10 rupees more or less could change him or his life. Above me, the sun turns my country to a boil. I clear my throat. I start my training for bargains. I say to him, hello, assalamu alaikum. My mother hits me with the broom. 3. The moon waxes only for one goldfish called godfish. Godfish lives in a crystal clear aquarium behind the crystal clear window of a giant wooden house in New London, Connecticut. Burdened with monotony, Godfish entices the moon. It stripteases by floating upside down at night. Once the cat noticed this, believed Godfish had died, it ruptured the night with its cry. 4. Pakistan is the worst country in the world, but I am at the MoMA staring at a Picasso. I hate my dirty shoes. My mother is very far, but I can still hear her every cop. On 5th Avenue, I want to be important. I want to hammer a nail into the New York City sky. I want to hang myself on its wound. 5. House Mouse is dancing in the tower. The tower is an archaic tower with one window shaped as a slit in the roof. It is the glassless, breathless crack of a sunroof through which House Mouse cannot even see the sun full. Silence is not an option for the night. Crickets are cricketing and owls are hooting. There are fireflies on the ceiling and they're blinking. House mouse has no language to describe this kind of disco. 6. The body is a temple, but only of a woman for a man who knows no prayer. My mother grew up in foliage where an empty tree had nothing to do with the season. If the travel mustered a distance longer, there would be long stretches of golden sand. My mother once begged the sky for water and the land for grain. 7. New London is a small white town in Connecticut. Wikipedia says in 2010 it held 26,984 individuals. Pakistan has a population of 197 million individuals. Saudi Arabia holds 32.94 million individuals. America, including New London, England, in 2018 is home to 327.2 million individuals. I have never been to New London, Connecticut, but I had my first Starbucks in Makkah. 8. On the phone, my father says he is stuck. An important hand has disappeared from his mind. He needs it to build himself a machine. The machine, he mumbles and grumbles, is a coaster that would bring him to a tower where he can finally find his dislocation. The machine is his answer to my every question. The machine is my father's made-up thing. 9. The cat has been in love with Godfish since the day the cat set its eyes on Godfish. Godfish, with all his heart, believes in only two things: love and being eaten by the cat. The cat spends most of its day checking out Godfish. The cat loves the way it shimmers against the sunlight. The cat loves the way it plays upside down in the moonlight. The cat only leaves Godfish's side to shit. 10. House mouse cook fish for the first meal, corn for the second meal, and melted cheese for the third meal. The tower is one room full of great imaginings working towards not staying imagined. The tower's job is to provide to turn every fantasy into a concrete actuality. The tower is a wishing tower, a wish of flame. But House Mouse is a simple being without much want. House Mouse was once like the tower itself. All House Mouse used to do was fulfill. House Mouse wishes to save the tower from its conditioning. House Mouse begins to perform rituals in chants and wish. 11. On the phone, I tell my father my true ally would take care of my mother. My father parks the car at the side of Canal Bank Road and beats into his palms. The Lahore Canal swells in the summer and dies in the winter. It carries the water to where the grain grows. The machine he wants is a fantasy to aid escape. The best machine is the brain. The bare minimum to life, I coo at him, is to just live. Something happened along the way to somewhere, and that something gave birth to a feeling of resignation that either takes away, that takes over, or shrinks to the tiniest. Something happened along the way to somewhere, and that something gave birth to a feeling of resignation that either takes over or shrinks to the tiniest thing that entirely vanishes. My father in his dream has been asked to duty. My father wakes to a new year with one rotting leg, his car split in two on the New Year road, with his eyes milking away a forever bruise. My father in an accident is just an incident we talk over the phone. He chuckles at the dent he emitted on our planet. He no longer speaks of machines or flight. 20. To practice shame is part of the education. Close the legs, otherwise Satan will climb between them. Cover the head, otherwise Satan will take a piss on it. Hide the breast, otherwise Satan will convince the body every single breath the lungs take is full of seduction. In Masjid Ayesha, I emerged washed and clean in a fresh abaya, and everyone said, MashaAllah. 21. The tower's rock was no longer churning, and House Mouse feared liberation meant the tower was dead. House Mouse punched the walls and received nothing back, not even a cracked bone. The crickets and the owls muted, the fireflies fused, the silence seeped so deep into the night it turned mercilessly to give in to the day without a word called. Through the roof slit, the sun did its job well. Beaming so strong, house mouse felt a mock. The tower's final wish fulfilled was a wish that resulted in its own kill. 21.5. My mother says, without our faith, we are just a hollowing, hallowing carcass. A desire path is created through an inevitable erosion by an animal. It is a constant back and forth trot in the same narrow area. It is a natural act that connects two separate destinations in their lack of constant hold. No one liked coming to the giant wooden house in New London, Connecticut, where the winter had a bat bite, the summer brought strange pesticides, and spring hardly lost it in the rain. There was no path, no trout, and no desire deep enough for any kind of create. 23. My mother covered my eyes and guided me towards the big black box. The first time you see the Kaaba, my mother whispered, filling my ear with an excitement rare for her disposition. Any wish you wish will come true. To orchestrate a desire from a heart is impossible, for I had practiced my wish of the first sighting to a degree my desire had turned dull and tired. Yet when the hands moved away from my eyes, I began my performance. In front of the towering box, sharp at the edges, smooth and silky on the sides, inscribed with gold Arabic, I performed my prayer. I widened my eyes, I gaped my lips, I cupped my hands. I muttered and coined my wish. My mother reminded me to blow it out after my Amin. That way, it will reach the heavens faster. Um, 32. The greatest country in the world is America. You don't even have to ask Google. Google will tell you on its own. All you have to type is in the search bar is greatest. Come on, go try it. Like this, we can all know the world at our fingertips. The great children of America have eaten, at least once, McDonald's, which to me is relatable because I, too, as a child in Pakistan, have eaten McDonald's, and have owned a collection of toys from the Happy Meal, which are displayed proudly on a toy shelf, which is still placed in my room in Lahore, behind protective glass at home. These toys are different from the toys American children get. I believe. 33. I was in 7th grade when my grandmother passed away. It was August, and my mother, father, and I drove down from Lahore to Bahawalpur, where everyone was gathered for, as my mother put it, one last time. My brother stayed behind for an important exam he couldn't truly miss, so in my argument, who was there and who was not there became so transparent it was concrete. Upon arrival, explicit tears. My nanny was lying on the charpai, cleaned and wrapped in cotton cloth, her wrinkles unmoving. Was she smiling a peaceful smile? Or did we want her to smile a peaceful smile? Her Mona Lisa moment, I called it, and everyone looked at my mother in utter dismay. 34. The Kaaba is a black box, sharp at the edges, smooth and silky on the sides, with gold verses calligraphed on each face. Or that is what its skin is. The cloth that covers the building hides the building. It separates the audience from what is behind. Is it a truth no one much thinks of? Has no alliance for? The default has become to trust, and in this blind faith, all gods are squeezed together to become one singular God. The cloth is a veil that hides the carcass, decorates it in sleek beauty, allows for majesty. The Kaaba is Allah's home, a home Muslims travel towards only to revolve around it, coining at it, and verses, prayers, desires for cleanse and fulfill. 35. It doesn't matter how they live, when they die, they all say the same thing. May they be granted a place in Jannatul Firdaus. Back when I was a child, but not considered much of a child, I couldn't pronounce Jannatul Firdaus until my mother sat me down and mouthed it to me, asking me to follow her lips. A word cannot be learned if there is no meaning, unless it is a name calling so concrete it becomes both name and meaning. Becomes an unquestioning identity. Who is Firdaus? I asked, and my mother laughed and laughed and laughed, her eyes slanting, her neck bulging. A place, she breathed out, a place in heaven that is of the highest level, reserved for the most pious, the most special, the most loved, if Allah deems it to be. 36. The moon has no sense of time, but contains in its nature both virtues of patience and impatience. To have order is an obedience which comes in bondage with the sun. What am I, the moon laments in its revolves, if not just a reflection of another louder being? Yet to possess desire is both an ailment and an element, to love not a condition but an experience. It is to occur between two bodies in either a chance of matched energy fluctuation or an elongated familiarity taking place due to enough time spent. The moon in its effect and cause becomes a lively thing in love with godfish swimming in the waters of an aquarium sea without a sense of real time. When I was a child, but not much considered a child, my mother said that on the day of judgment, no one would care about the other. No parent for their child, no friend for their friend, no love for their lover. Will you forget me too? I asked her. It's inevitable, my mother replied. You will forget me too. 39. My father parks the car outside of the pizzeria where my friends have collected themselves with balloons, gifts, and cheer. I am turning 19. Inside the car, the August heat gathers itself in beads of sweat on both of our foreheads. A commonality of our genes where when we sweat from our scalps. My father rests his hands on my head. My father pats. He never fixes the AC in his car. My hair is full of heat. I wonder if I can set his hand on fire. My father wishes me happy birthday. My father launches into lament soaked in advice. My father traps me. The car seat becomes a wooden platform, the seat belt a hammer, and my hand a movement that will set off the spring. I was a catch, a pest, a rodent, a mouse, famed to always know how to help itself while still desiring an exit. I was a house mouse dreaming of running away to a place full of height. A lot of things happen, so I'm gonna just go to the end and wrap it up. There's a story, so maybe I won't spoil it for you. All right. All right, 55. No, actually, I don't want to spoil it for you, so. The last one, 56. There was a house, a wall divided a garden in two. The gate held a latch always unlatched. Inside a car, inside a door, inside a couch. On the couch sat a body of age staring at a ticking clock. The ticking clock does the waiting, waiting, waiting. There is a picture frame, there is no picture. There is no dust. The couch is covered in a white cotton cloth. The TV is on, the TV is gone. There is also another body of age. Then there is not. The house is so bright. The sun is so hot. The temperature is so high. The house is empty. The clock is gone. There is no body. There's so much dust. House mouse is here. House mouse has returned. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ayesha. Thank you, KÁNYIN, for sharing your work. I'd love to invite you up to our little panelist table here. And it is our audience's time to shine, so feel free to come have a seat. It is time for our Q&A portion of the event. So we have a few minutes for questions if anyone in the audience has anything they'd like to ask our poets. Feel free to just raise your hand. I'll call on you, but it's okay if you need a second to transition. But yeah, raise your hand when you're ready. I'm seeing some thoughtful faces. I don't want to put pressure if people are feeling shy. And I'd be happy to ask a little warm-up question for you both. So something that we often get a lot of questions about is craft, of course. Surprising no one, a poetry event is often full of writers in the crowd. Can you both talk a little bit about your relationship to your craft and maybe your writing process? Do you write every day? Do you sort of get inspiration in fits and bursts? What's your relationship to craft like?
I guess for me, it's all about experimentation. I love playing around with things, and I guess because I'm so drawn to different mediums, I've only made one short film, so I wouldn't call myself a screenwriter, but I like to write a lot of scripts that I haven't gotten made yet. I also write fiction and plays and things like that. But the point I'm trying to make is anytime I get a chance to play around with form, and sometimes I like to go to museums or galleries, and I see a painting and I'm like, that's very interesting. What would be the poetry equivalent of that? I see what this painter is trying to do, and what would be, the equivalent of that if I were to work with text. And then I go home and I challenge myself to do the impossible, right? Which is make a painting into a poem. And sometimes I, see a movie, say a Barry Jenkins movie or a Paul Thomas Anderson movie, and I like the cinematography. It's very inspiring. What would be, let me try to write a short story inspired by what I just saw. And I'm pretty sure when people read, say, the poem or the story, they can't make a connection between what I've made and what the inspiration was. But I just generally get stimulated by other creatives, and I challenge myself to, try to make an equivalent in my own, using my own medium. And I don't know how successful other people would say it's been, but for me, that's what gets me to actually write.
I feel like I write because, I started writing since I was, a child, as a form of processing life that was around me. And then I went to college, I went to a really crazy liberal arts college called Bennington. I don't know. It's like, so crazy, it was so crazy. I can't tell you. One day I'll tell you. But and I think it was I'm very competitive, like Asianness, I have to win. Yeah, so I think I saw all these people who were wanting to be poets, and I was like, you know what, why not me? And then I think it just went like that. But I think to this day though, I'm not really thinking a lot about audiences, which is a very thing fiction people often talk about, what is your audience, who is your audience? And I'm always trying to process what's going on in me, and trying to collect the personal with the political and the political with the personal, because it's and this the same for me. So and then and someone consoled that you'll find your own audience as you live your writing life. But yeah, I also take a lot of love and inspiration from many other mediums of painting and film and stuff. So I really resonated with what you said. I do think as someone who loves experimenting with genre, genre just exists so for marketing purposes and capitalism publishing. In reality, I think when you write, it's all one big thing, and then the agent takes it, the publisher, and then they put it in a category. But I think as a writer, I keep telling myself don't think about genre too much. Just be and say what you want to say and how you want to say it, and it will just go as it goes. But that's how I'm feeling about craft these days.
Yeah. I like the connection between your work and the experimentation. And both of you are very experimental, but in very different ways, which is something that I really appreciate about both of these collections. And part of why I was excited to kind of get you together, because I feel you're both reaching maybe in different directions, but for something equally kind of powerful or, yeah, heightened. I'm turning back to you, my beautiful audience. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm curious for both of you, when you're writing poetry, do you think of it as something that you're going to perform as you're writing it, or if you imagine it as something people are going to read? I'm also curious, like, kind of related to that, whether how much like what the poetry looks like on the page, like how much formatting plays into the way you like express the poetry, or if it's more about like how it sounds in your head and how you would imagine it reading it out loud.
I was going first. So, I mean, I teach poetry, and one of the foundational things I tell all beginner introductory classes is like read out loud your poems, because musicality or sound, it's all sound and syllables and rhythm. And even though you might not have the tools to understand meter yet, you can still hear it. So I don't know. I mean, spoken word is like totally different. I mean, even in the poetry genre, like there's so many other forms and genres. Like mini and spoken word has its own world. So I think maybe performance in that kind, I do think it has a lot to do with sound. So speaking it out loud, or like when I write, I definitely read my stuff out loud once the draft is finished, and that's like a really good foundation of my editorial practice. Letting someone else read that poem back to you is also very interesting, because people's accents, lisp, when they pause, when they do not pause, what punctuation means for them, all these aspects, they have a relationship with it, so you can also be like, oh, that was not how I wanted the rhythm to be. But at a certain point, you have to make your own choices. Like, I wrote this book almost 5, and I stumbled on some sentences because that's now not how I relate to that kind of sound anymore. And I was just like, how interesting. So I think performance, I don't know, but like performance, most of it has to do with sound and the visualness of it, and that's your own relationship. So it's good, it's fun. I think because sometimes when I'm writing in meter, I'm also like doing this in public, and it's like pretty crazy to do that in public, like you're like counting syllables. But that's their way of kind of recording how you want it to sound like.
Yes, it's funny. I always imagine my poems being read by someone else, and every time I write, I imagine it's called immigrant monologues. I'm obsessed with the idea of someone on stage reading poems, and yes, every time I write a poem, I imagine someone else reading it, and I used to be obsessed with people reading it the exact same way I intend. But then I don't remember if it's Poetry Foundation or Poetry.com that has this option, gives this option to poets who have their poems featured on the website can also read the poem. So you see the poem on screen, but also hear the poem at the same time. And there have been many times when I've been obsessed with a poem and I've been reading it a particular way in my head, and I hear the poet read it, and I'm like, oh, okay, so that's an entirely different poem. And so now I'm like, people are going to read your poem in so many different ways, and that's fine. You don't need to be so obsessed about it. But yes, in the creation process, I do think about that. And I think the other part of the question was on the page, right? How it looks on the page. And what's interesting is, so because this is still kind of new, and the book isn't out yet, even though I wrote some of the poems 3-4 years ago, it still feels very new. We still made some changes like 2 months ago. So there's some words that even as I was reading today, I was like, oh, I just remember we just changed that like a month ago. There are certain things on the page that I don't know how to translate when I'm reading them. Because there are a lot of like fun things we try to do with the typography, with colors, and some poems don't even look like poems. And looking, as I was coming here today, I was looking at them, I was like, no one's going to know exactly how it looks on the page when you're reading them. But for me, I was just like, let me just pick the ones that feel easiest to translate to an audience and try to go with it. So I'm trying not to be too hard on myself and just get easy into it, because the book will be out in a month and I'm going to read it like 8-10 places. So it looks very different on the page than when you read it in person, which is, I guess when I was writing it, that was a corner I was backing myself into, because it's one of those collections that you just can't translate it into a reading unless you rewrite it in certain ways.
We do have time for one more question from our audience. Now there's 3 questions. So how about this? I'll call on you, and then afterward, we'll have mingling time. And so if you didn't get to have your question answered, and you are really brave, and you want to come and ask the poets while they're here, please do feel free. I hope it's okay that I offer that. Beautiful. So yeah, go ahead.
So, and also, I'm sorry if I mess up the pronunciation. KÁNYIN?
Yes.
All right. So, in a couple of your writings, like there was like strong relationships with the queer community. I wanted to ask, like, what's your relationship to the community? Would be like the best or hardest lesson that you got from that community?
Oh, well, I am a member of the community. But when I was writing the book, it was mostly about identifying as an immigrant, and a lot of the poems were about being an immigrant. And I was in an MFA program then, and one of my professors was like, try to make it a bit more personal. I was like, well, if we make it more personal, then love gets into it, right? And then I was writing about those things, and I thought, and the very important thing about this is I didn't want to write it about, of course there was no, we didn't have the same like ICE crisis as we did when I was writing this 2-3 years ago. But my first instinct was to write it as I'm an immigrant and I'm going to fight against the government or whatever. And then I thought, okay, why don't you just start by talking about yourself as human first, right? You come all the way from Nigeria, you are in the diaspora, you're experiencing love and heartbreak and friendship and all these things. And I think the best way to humanize immigrants is to always position us as opposition out to the government or to certain policies. But as humans, just like everyone else, right? We go to work, we all go to school, we have crushes, we deal with different kinds of heartbreak. So the queerness is a manifestation of myself, and there are 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 5 characters in the book, and 4 of them are queer for obvious reasons. And it just felt very natural to me, but very different dimensions of exploration of queerness in the book. Does that answer the question?
I guess best or hardest lesson that you got from the community?
Oh, the lesson. It's difficult to learn a lesson from a community you're part of, so let me see. I guess it's just, well, I would say in my life as I've grown and also moved here, it's all about just, learning to grow into yourself and giving yourself grace, because there are a lot of people who feel like they should be more open about themselves and their sexuality or whatever, and we don't live in a very kind world. So I would just say, like, the lesson for me has just been about being kindness to myself and letting myself grow into my identity, and wherever it takes me, I just let it happen.
Well, that's a really beautiful note to end on. Thank you, KÁNYIN, for sharing. And of course, thank you, Ayesha. Folks, if you are interested in these 2 wonderful books, we have a few copies of Ayesha's book over there, and you can order KÁNYIN's book through the QR code that's in the little frame. Thank you for being here to support these poets' work, their books. Please say nice things to them while you have them here. And of course, thank you, KÁNYIN and Ayesha, for joining us, for sharing your work. We're so thrilled to have got to host you, so thank you for being here. Everyone, let's give them one more round of applause.
Oh, this is